Folks, thanks for coming on with us today. My name is John Dubas with Premier Marketing, and we are going to spend the next 45 minutes or so discussing the means and ways that you can sell both Medicare Advantage and Medicare Supplement programs. It's an area where we're exploring both ends of the Medicare market, and our hopes today is to give you some ideas as to how you can tailor your presentations to the needs of your prospects and clients and do so efficiently and effectively. Before we begin, today's presentation is being recorded, and the recording, along with the PowerPoint and other material that we will reference throughout the course of today's presentation, will be sent to everyone who had RSVP'd to today's presentation. So watch for that. It'll be sent as soon as the recording updates and we're able to access it online. A bit of background about us here at Premier Marketing. For those of you who may be unfamiliar with us, we are a national marketing organization founded in 1968. We're part of the Integrity Marketing Platform with offices across the country. We act as an insurance wholesaler, providing contracts to different insurance carriers and servicing the public through independent insurance agents such as yourself. Those contracts are available at the highest possible commission levels, with recruiting contracts available to those who qualify. As I mentioned, we were founded in 1968, so that means this past year we celebrated a milestone in our history, our 50th anniversary. And that's quite an accomplishment for what began as a small family agency in rural Nebraska, who's grown to be one of the largest producers in conjunction with its contracted agents in both the Medicare Advantage and Medicare Supplement worlds. And that brings us to the topics that we need to speak about today. We do so through a full insurance portfolio that includes the Medicare Advantage and Medicare Supplement programs and Part D standalone prescription drug plans, a full portfolio of life insurance and annuity products, final expense life insurance, including pre-need programs, long and short-term care programs, disability income plans, and ancillary benefits that include dental, vision, and hearing programs, critical illness and cancer plans, and hospital indemnity programs. That Medicare Advantage portfolio is large, includes all the national carriers and many of the strong regional carriers that will make a difference to you in your market, and includes that same philosophy when we look at the standalone Part D programs, where the national carriers are there for your disposal and your use through our organization. The Medicare Supplement portfolio is very large and robust and has support programs set up to help make you successful in that space. And we're going to go through some of those here today at length. The ancillary product portfolio includes the name programs in those different categories that we spoke of, and they fill a need not only for our prospects and clients to make certain that their coverage is as robust as possible, but also serve a number of different purposes for us as agents by giving us another means to access the prospects in our community and grow our book of business and supplement the income streams into our agencies as well. When we look at the Medicare market and go into the different details of the folks that are part of it, one of the things that I'll ask you to begin with is to keep an open mind. One of the things that we hear in many circumstances, and that you'll see on different message boards or discussions in the industry, is you'll find in many circumstances some agents are, well, I'm a Medicare Advantage guy. I sell Medicare Advantage products. And then there are folks that will say, I'm a Medicare Supplement agent. I don't understand why anybody would give something away and confine their prospects and clients to a network of providers that limits the care that my clients have. One of the things I'm asking is keep an open mind, and let's look at some of the different pieces that make up the Medicare market and why different programs are appropriate for different individuals at different times. One of the things we notice right off the bat, and you'll hear in any type of presentation from a marketer such as myself or a carrier representative, is, of course, the growing Medicare market and the fact that the baby boomers are aging into that population and that it is growing astronomically. And when you look at just the portion of the population that's turning 65, it is booming, no pun intended. And it is an area where we have a grand opportunity to not only earn a good living, but also serve the population that needs our help. Because when we look at age 65, that isn't a true barometer of the market that we're serving, because there are a number of folks that will continue to work past the age of 65 and not access Medicare in its entirety. They may be part of the working aged, if you want to put it in that circumstance, where they continue to remain on a group policy at work or maintain other coverages through the company they work for. And of course, it's a varied population that needs a number of solutions for the challenges that they have, because as we age, things happen to our body, and the majority of folks that are on Medicare have more than one chronic condition. 2/3 of the population have 3+. And we also have some challenges for this population when it comes to their wallet as well. In this slide from Kaiser Family Foundation, using 2015 numbers, the median income is about $24,000. As we go into the next slide and we see a more recent one, that goes up to $26,200. However, there are a number of folks within that continuum that may have one product that better suits their needs than others based on just what they can afford to purchase. And that is something that may well be part of your overall marketing plan, where you target just a portion of the Medicare population, but being aware of the other programs that are out there helps make certain that you maximize your sales potential and get the most out of your marketing efforts as well. Some interesting things that come on this slide as well. We'll notice that 17% of the population in this time period is under the age of 65. And these are the folks that are disabled and are accessing Medicare because of that disability. We'll also notice that there is a solid percentage of folks that are also in long-term care facilities. At 3 to 5% of the Medicare population, you think that's a small number, but that's millions of people. At that number, then it really changes how we can look at the overall market, because there are different portions of that market that may or may not be a true market for us, depending upon how we have set up our marketing programs and the products that are part of our portfolio. Pardon me. My presentation is just trying to be interesting here with me right now. This is the later presentation, or the later data from Kaiser Family Foundation, that gives us some additional information about the folks that we're dealing with. And when we look at this, it gives us then the indication that we need a varied portfolio in order to serve the population that we visit with. Because the folks that are under the age of 65, if we look at the possibilities of additional coverage for them, in addition to traditional Medicare, they have different options than the folks that are 65 and above. Depending upon your state of residence, the majority of folks who are disabled only have access to a certain type of Medicare supplement program. As many of you are well aware, that the Plan A is the only program that they can purchase in most states, and it is limited in the amount of benefit that it offers, but it's not so limited in the amount of premium that it charges. For these folks, you will note that they have the same benefit package as the folks that are on Medicare because of age and a Medicare Advantage program. And we'll also notice that this portion of the population has a much larger percentage of folks that are on Medicare only, 21% versus the 12%. When we look at that and try to reconcile in our minds what could be the causes of this discrepancy, Well, one of the things, obviously, is if they're medically disabled, they may well have strong ties in the medical community that may limit their use of a Medicare Advantage program because of that circumstance, where they want to maintain the care through their current providers, and the Medicare Advantage programs available in their area may not give them access to those providers. It's also a possibility that these folks also have different challenges when it comes to the availability of programs in their area in the Medicare Advantage realm as well. Some of them may be in more rural areas that don't offer a strong Medicare Advantage portfolio, or may well be just boiled down to the circumstance of, well, my provider is not in it, it's not an option for me. And that's obviously a very valid consideration. We also have a different challenge when it comes into play as to what monies are available to purchase additional coverages. And we'll notice that the percentage of folks on the higher end of the income strata for the age 65 and plus, we have a larger percentage of folks with $50,000 of income plus versus the folks that are under age 65 on Medicare because of disability, where we're looking at 3 times the number, 3 times the percentage, I should say, of folks over 65 that are much more valid Medicare supplement prospects simply because of the dollars that are involved as well. So some of the things that come into consideration obviously depends on the health circumstances of our clients and the network that they're currently accessing or is available to them on the programs that are available in their area, and then the challenge that comes about because of the constraint placed on us by our wallet. So if we have an opportunity then to look at the base medical coverage, and the best choice for our individuals is actually a Medicare supplement program, we also then need to take into consideration what we can do to help them with their prescription cost and the options that they have available there as well. And we'll see in these circumstances that a higher percentage of folks under the age of 65 actually have low-income subsidy assistance, the extra help programs that come into play. And that makes sense if we go back to the previous slide and we look at the average income, where more folks will qualify for this assistance based on that, and it has a correlation as well because of their age. If we look at the other end of the spectrum, we also need to be aware, if we work the higher end of the market, of the joys of IRMA and the challenges that it places on higher end individuals, higher income individuals, where their premium has a bit of an extra dig into the wallet based on their incomes. So if we work one end of the spectrum or another, we really need to be aware of the additional information we need at our disposal in order to serve that population correctly and thoroughly. Working the higher income individuals, we need to have a good handle on what's going to happen if their income is above $85,000 a year, and how that affects not only their Part B premium, but also the monthly premium for their prescription drug coverage. If they're on the other end of the spectrum, we need to be very aware of the low-income subsidy and Medicare savings programs that can help us be a viable source of information for our prospects and clients because of the availability of those programs as well. Because plain and simple, people have choices. This basically graphic gives us the idea of folks staying with original Medicare and picking up a standardized Medicare supplement program and perhaps a Part D program for their prescription drug coverage. And then, of course, folks who take the route of going into Medicare Part C, where their medical coverage is many times bundled with a prescription drug coverage that's integrated right into their program, and that serves as their best choice. What this doesn't say is there is a good portion of the Medicare population that chooses to do nothing additional. And there are about 17% of the folks that are on Medicare that don't pick up any additional coverages. So as we work through our marketing efforts and we encounter these individuals, they are folks that we may actually come across through more of community efforts, because they may not be the individual that responds to our marketing outreach with direct mail or TV or radio advertisements, or outlays from a carrier as well, reaching out to that population. So we have different subsets of the population that we have to make certain that we are prepared to address, because in many circumstances, the folks who, as an old sales manager of mine at Prudential 30 years ago told me, the decision to make a decision is a decision. And that's true, where these folks have decided, I'm not going to do anything extra. And then our approach to them is a bit different than someone who is set on a Medicare supplement program, where we then walk into a different decision process than someone who has no coverages at all. What deaf research tells us is basically the folks that are aging into Medicare that are choosing between Medicare Advantage and Medicare Supplement programs, well, it's a pretty even split. And in this circumstance, from the survey in 2018, we see almost an even split on MA and Med Sup, and then about a fifth of the population staying on original Medicare only. This then gives us the idea of making certain that we have the information to fully educate the population based on what their predisposition is. And this gives us then the opportunity to make certain that we tailor our approach to not only inform the population, but give them true options when sometimes they may well don't know what they're going to do at all. An update on that from 2018 to 2019 gives us an idea of the fact that folks are getting a little bit better about making choices. There's a ton of information out there, and so many of these people then have an opportunity on their initial Medicare enrollment to make pretty much an even split and actually make a decision. When we look at the Medicare supplement population itself, and we look back and think of the income spread that we have in some of the previous slides provided to us by Kaiser Family Foundation, we see that folks on the lower income spectrum are less likely to pick up a Medicare supplement program. And there's only true logic to that, because if your household income is stretched, additional outlay may be something that they're looking to minimize, and they're willing to then put a bit of a different type of price tag on different relationships they may have with providers, or to look to bring about additional benefits to their household without having to come out of pocket for that choice, that true choice of the network that is available to them with a traditional Medicare supplement program. So when we look back on that slide and we see that the median income of these folks is $26,200, that gives us an idea of right about halfway through this, where a good portion of the Medicare population may not be a viable prospect for Medicare supplement programs simply because they don't have the money to purchase it. And we have to also take into account that it's not just the cost of the Medicare supplement program, but also the standalone Part D programs, where the national average of those programs has run about $32 to $34 over the last few years and has remained fairly constant. So in addition to the premium of the Medicare supplement program, they also have to look at the cost of coverage for their medications. Depending upon where you are in the market in which you work, there's obviously a predisposition in some markets stronger one way or another. And we see several of the markets that are very heavily engaged in Medicare Advantage and managed care programs. When we go through the West Coast and we land in California, we see not only a greater acceptance of managed care programs, we also see a much more competitive environment, and the programs themselves are a bit richer in their benefits. It's also an area where, as an agent, you're compensated a little stronger on the sale of a Medicare Advantage plan than you are in other parts of the country. It's also a state where some of these programs with the Medicare Supplements can vary from state to state because they may be a program with specific legislation that protects or ensures additional rights to that beneficiary based on the anniversary of them taking out a policy, or perhaps a birthday rule where during the month of their birth they have an opportunity to change programs on a guarantee issue basis. And we see then a difference not only in the premiums for those programs, but it also can make a difference as to how many programs are offered by different insurance companies in that market. When you get into a number of the GI states, a guarantee issue state, you'll see fewer companies competing for that business, and it can make a bearing as to what we have to offer, obviously. When we look at the MedSup market by plan type, well, we're all aware of the macro changes coming into play at the first of this next year, and we are seeing a change in the products that are offered in the Medicare population moving forward for the sunsetting of the C's and the Plan F's for folks that are not already on Medicare. Because it's important for us to note that macro doesn't change the availability of Medicare supplement programs for the people who are already on Medicare. It does change it for the individuals that aren't in Medicare presently and aren't by the end of the year in Medicare. So that changes some of the market that we have when it comes to the choices we have with plan types. And that then translates into a difference as to how different carriers will price these programs, not only now, but into the future. Because we have, moving forward, a sort of division of Medigap policies where we have the market of folks that are already in Medicare and those that are aging in. So we'll see a difference into how some of these programs are offered, and it may well then affect the choices of the people we serve because of the premiums that are involved and the overall coverage. In all honesty, the difference between an F and a G with the Part B deductible, currently $185 a year, that won't make a lot of difference for most people when it comes to the wallet, but for some people, it does make a difference as to their comfort level. Many folks like that Plan F because it covers whatever Medicare doesn't on a covered expense. So it'll be curious to see how some of this runs through in the very near future. As I mentioned too, we see a difference as to how a number of these companies will actually approach the guarantee issue situations that are changing with these programs, but also the offerings of the G's and the N's, which are becoming much more popular because of these changes, and also how they are going to continue to underwrite the business that remains in the F and the C programs. The MedSup market is dominated by a handful of carriers when it comes to overall percentages, and these folks are at the forefront of offering different pieces of information on macro now. If that's something that you need additional information on, it will be a link to a past presentation that we've given on macro that will come as part of the follow-up to today's presentation as well. What we see moving forward too is a number of different presentations given to us by different entities that can compare Medigap versus Medicare Advantage programs. And the language that is used in some of these comparisons sometimes give us an idea as to the source of that comparison. This one tends to be a fairly vanilla type of comparison that gives the pros and cons of the different programs laid side by side, and pretty valid across the board, where you will see with a Medigap policy the fact that they generally have much higher premiums but no copays in many circumstances. You have a non-network situation unless you get into a Medicare Select program on these programs, where then the hospital for a planned admission may be then restricted. They generally don't require referrals between physicians. There are, however, many physicians that will require a referral from another doctor simply as a matter of business philosophy. So that's something to consider. And you'll see that generally the standardized, modernized Medicare supplement programs have the identical benefits where an F is an F is an F. And we say that with a little bit of tongue in cheek because there are other programs that will offer additional benefits. Even though they're not standardized, they'll offer perhaps discounts for vision or dental programs, or perhaps even on some prescription drugs. Some plans in the Medigap world actually offer gym memberships as well. And these programs are universally accepted anywhere in the United States. The Medicare Advantage programs generally have lower premiums, but have a pay-as-you-go type of restriction on them. They do generally have networks, if not on a true HMO basis. If it's a PPO or a POS plan, you have a higher out-of-pocket when you go out of network. In many circumstances, they do require referrals to the specialist, but they do also, in many circumstances, offer additional extra benefits, including vision, hearing, fitness programs, transportation, in many circumstances, over-the-counter benefits, a number of interesting benefits moving forward where the government has given the carriers offering Medicare Advantage programs the opportunity to come up with additional benefits that may be non-medical in nature. And what we're seeing for a lot of the previews of the 2020 benefits, that's particularly applicable when you deal with some of the chronic special needs programs. These programs also generally offer emergency services only outside the service area on an emergency basis as well. Both of them may have restrictions when it comes to care given for someone who travels overseas. So some different things that come into play with this piece as to how it lays out the difference between a Medigap and a Med Advantage program. AHIP has come out with some additional information espousing the joys of Medicare Advantage programs, talking about the opportunity that it has to save dollars for folks that are healthy, how it can help maintain cost for the taxpayers as a whole, since the programs are laid out and sent to a private carrier that's then subject to the entire cost of the claim, and the fact that they are very strong in maintaining additional programs that help people stay healthy, with an emphasis on the preventative care, because many of them do cover the annual physical and not just a checkup that Medicare, original Medicare covers as part of their program. It also gives us the information that most seniors that are in Medicare Advantage programs like the programs and stick with them. The persistency in these programs are very high, and you'll see generally a little bit of shopping when it comes to AEP and perhaps now into OEP, but generally it is more due diligence than it is an actual switch. The Medicare Advantage members, only about 10% of them will switch during the open enrollment period, and then the opportunity to switch after the first of the year as well. You'll see very many, also a number of additional programs that will come out espousing the quality of care that someone has in a Medicare Advantage program. And you'll see these same sorts of things put out by the different Medicare supplement carriers for their programs as well. The largest Medicare supplement program really espouses the fact that generally the main reason why someone would leave their Medicare supplement is what we used to call back in the old days a celestial discharge. They died. That is one of the main reasons someone changes coverage from an AARP Medicare supplement program. This is another comparison that gives you ideas as to where this information came from, and a bit more detail than the other comparison side by side, in the fact that it does make note of the fact that Medicare supplement programs generally do not have any Medicare coverage for their prescription drugs, where most of the Medicare Advantage programs do. And then, of course, the fact that there are different underwriting requirements that come into play with the Medicare supplement programs, where the Medicare Advantage plans ask one medical question that comes into play as to whether or not someone is accepted, and that is the end-stage renal disease for the majority of the MA programs. I place that explanation in that fashion because there are actually MAPD programs that are designed to market to the ESRD population. Not generally across the country, but in certain markets that is available. And then, of course, there are a ton of folks that are going into the Medicare Advantage programs, and a recent article forecasted that by 2027, 70% of the Medicare population would be in a Medicare Advantage program. I take that with a grain of salt because it wasn't all that long ago where many were forecasting the end to the Medicare Advantage programs as well. And so we need to temper our enthusiasm with a part of that, I think, if you're a Medicare Advantage plan devotee, but we also need to make certain that we realize that for any entity to now remove these programs from availability to the Medicare population because of the large number of folks that are active within this population, that'd be really hard to do. Medicare for All programs, or some of the different proposals that are out there for universal health care, will have a really interesting road to hoe when folks realize the costs that come with those programs as well. So as I mentioned before, we have a split opportunity, but that then gives us the reminder that there are also splits not only in how people pick up the programs, but there are also splits as to how we market the programs as well. The Medicare Advantage programs are regulated much differently than the Medicare supplement programs, and there are some things we can do to market MedSups that we cannot do to market Medicare Advantage programs. A couple of things that come to mind really quickly when it comes to Medicare supplement programs. Generally, you can cold call in states that allow that practice for Medicare supplement plans, where you cannot for Medicare Advantage or prescription drug programs. You can technically door knock for Medicare supplement programs in many states, where you cannot do so for Medicare Advantage or prescription drug programs. And the government gives us updated guidelines as to what we can do with Medicare Advantage programs and how we present them to the public. This document will come as part of the follow-up to today's presentation as well, because it tells us that the ins and outs as to how you can do a general group presentation and how you cannot, what you can give and what you cannot give. So that will come as part of the follow-up as well. It's also a piece that gives us an opportunity to use regulations as a bit of a sales tool as well. I generally recommend anyone who's discussing Medicare programs to get a scope of appointment completed, even if they're speaking just about Medicare supplement programs, because more often than not, the discussion will turn to Medicare prescription drug coverage as well. And having this in play up front not only gives you the opportunity to discuss across the board in detail and in specifics about the different programs that are available in a particular market, but it also gives you an opportunity to introduce the fact that there are other programs that are not covered by Medicare that can also be discussed during a health appointment. And those include dental, vision, and hearing programs, hospital indemnity programs, and critical illness plans. So that's something then that gives us the chance to go into further detail on additional programs that we've brought to our prospect and client's attention by simply having this form available to them. And there are circumstances where we will go into a household and the person is shopping, but not seriously shopping. They want basically the information to feel good about their current choice. And having this type of information gives us the opportunity to do additional selling, even if we're not able to help the person change their basic medical coverage. So it's something to strongly consider as part of your sales presentation, having this upfront and introducing the possibilities of other program discussions as well. Keep in mind that if the discussion does go off topics of health coverage, perhaps life insurance or final expense, that is a different appointment. If we're discussing Medicare Advantage or prescription drug programs, we cannot discuss life insurance on that same appointment. That's where the old 48-hour cooling off period comes into play, and we'd have to reschedule a different appointment to remain compliant. As I mentioned as well, it does change how we market from program to program as well, where cold calls are available in one avenue with Medicare Supplements, except for one carrier. Remember that. Don't cold call for ERP med subs. It's a great way to lose your United Healthcare contract. But it also then gives us a different perspective when we look at different community-based programs as well. In some of the more rural areas, the marketing programs that are out there ask of you that you have Medicare Supplements as part of your portfolio as well, because that may be a very viable option even for the clientele that are accessing their medications at a pharmacy that might be geared toward a lower income individual, if I said that carefully enough. It also gives us the opportunity to speak to seminar selling in faith-based venues where we can go through and discuss the different opportunities that people have to explore coverages separately on a seminar basis, where we can give a presentation about Medicare supplement plans and discuss the differences between a GNF and an N and how that will change for those individuals based on whether they're on Medicare already or not. It also gives us an opportunity to go through basic Medicare 101 types of presentations, where CMS has different presentations available to us to use in that fashion. And many of the carriers also do that very same thing for one product or another, where they have a sales track and a presentation for us for Medicare Advantage programs. And most of the Medicare supplement programs have a similar type of track to follow for Medicare supplement programs. They are both viable options of interest to the community, and they give us an opportunity to do a varied presentation or multiple presentations in the same venue and deliver the information that helps us educate the population as to the choices they have and help them with an opportunity to make those changes based on the arrangement that you have with the facility where you're delivering that presentation. It's also important to note that many providers have a strong opportunity to market for Medicare Advantage programs if they're part of a network and they're looking at influencing their payer mix in that direction. They have a strong relationship with one company or another. It's also an opportunity for us to be aware of multiple carrier opportunities with the same provider, because they're not always inclusive of just one company's network. It gives us then the opportunity to speak to multiple carriers and make certain that we have within our portfolio the product that's necessary to help them with their choices. And not every doctor or provider is in a network, and many of those folks need help with educating their client base, their patient base, as to the options they have with different Medicare supplement carriers as well, and the different plan types that are available to them. So when you market to the provider community, it's not just to providers who are part of a Medicare Advantage program. It may be entirely the opposite. And those providers can then stretch out into other means of getting in front of the population with marketing dental programs with dentists, or through other providers of care that are compensated by Medicare, either through a billing with Medicare on a traditional basis or part of a network of programs that are available through a Medicare Advantage program. When we look at carrier programs, there are obviously different support structures set up by the different companies that can be of great value to us. In many circumstances, this entails working very closely with management in a particular market and with a particular carrier offering that program as the point of reference in your marketing efforts in that particular area. And so that's something we need to be aware of. And if you are working the Medicare Advantage world, we need to make certain that we have introduced you to and that you're familiar with the agent managers in your choice of markets in order to help facilitate that type of activity. Because those folks also may have community activities that enable you to market in additional fashions as well. They may have different things set up with nonprofits or with centers of influence in the community that need your help because you are a licensed certified agent with that particular carrier. I already spoke to the door knocking. That is a possibility in limited circumstances. Obviously, you don't want to do that in the Medicare Advantage or PDP world. It is a possibility, however, with other products that don't have that constraint. An area where we're seeing a lot of play now as well deals with social media. And you will find that regardless of the type of program that you are offering, if you're speaking to a carrier-specific program, you have to be really careful and make certain that the message that you're presenting on social media is approved by that carrier. It's also very important that if you're using their logo, that you have their approval to do so as well. And that's something that is a vital concern when it comes to compliance, because, boy, everybody is on social media now, and the lead programs that are out there now for Facebook are some of the more effective programs that are out there when it comes to lead generation. And there's always then too the strong availability of the old reliable direct mail. Response on these programs aren't what they used to be, but they're still a strong generator of leads moving forward. And it is something then that is a key for you when you look at your overall marketing program, because direct mail can be used to support many of these other options prior to it, but it is also more effective with certain pieces of mail than with others. And if you are targeting the higher income individuals, you're going to find that your response rate on direct mail is less than it is on the targeted demographic of lower income. So some different things that come into play regardless as to how not only you make up your mind as to what's part of your marketing system within the demographic you wish to pursue, but also how you pursue it moving forward. The biggest thing we got to remember outside of that open mind is one size doesn't fit all. When you go in to visit the doctor, he doesn't just give you a pill. She just doesn't give you an injection. They take tests, they speak to you, they ask questions, and they look to formulate a plan of attack, so to speak, to best address your needs. That's what we're looking to do when we visit with folks about their Medicare coverage as well, because one size doesn't fit all. There's not a magic pill. There's not a silver bullet. That is the answer to everyone and everyone's circumstance. We have different means of accessing that information. And Medicare.gov is an incredible tool when it comes to not only identifying choices in a particular market, but it is also very shortly going to be a way for you to compare 2019 versus 2020 offerings in your chosen market. Because as of the 1st of October, you can market those 2020 plans, and you can't sell them until the 15th of the month. So it gives us an opportunity to use this tool for the Medicare Advantage and prescription drug programs overall. We look at that website. It's a great way for us to go in and find the different health plans, and gives us an opportunity to look at what can we do now as well. And something I'm going to do here just really quickly. It's a North Dallas zip code. Look at Dallas County. But this also gives you the opportunity to plug in the medications they take to really lay out the differences that are made on these programs, not just on a copay to a doctor or to a hospital, but where medications fall on a formulary, if they're on that list at all, or on one of the tiers that come into play. And it also gives you an opportunity for that large part of the percentage that are of the Medicare population that is lower income and may be eligible for different types of coverage as well. And pardon me, I click on a different piece here. And the purpose for this is to help us identify folks that may qualify now for special needs programs. Because I don't know about you, but I'm not independently wealthy. And even though we have a day left for an 8/1 effective, we then still have 9/1, 10/1, 11/1, and 12/1 effectives that we market to. And how can we reach as many people during that time period as well across the spectrum of plans and the possibilities they have for coverages moving forward for the rest of the year? That gives us an opportunity to look at the programs that are available to low-income individuals, folks that qualify for Medicare and Medicaid. It also gives us an opportunity to be well-versed on our low-income subsidy to take advantage of that SEP. And then, of course, there are a number of chronic special needs programs that different people with certain health conditions may be eligible for. And this is an area where we're seeing a surge in availability of these types of programs in 2020. So when you look at focusing for 2020, little pun there, focus 2020. Anyway, it gives us then an opportunity to plan throughout the year, because we're going to have more of those types of programs available moving forward than we have had here this year and in the recent past. That's all well and good, but if you are one of the individuals that markets more to the higher income individuals, how are we then going to make certain we have what we need to address the Medicare supplement world? And that's where the tool we make available through our affiliation with CSG gives us the opportunity to quote different programs of different types with different carriers to help walk a person through their options in the Medicare supplement world as well. This is also a pretty cool tool that gives us the opportunity to see what penetrations there are in the Medicare Advantage world in your market. But when we go to the Med Sups, which was the purpose of this, and we're looking at that same zip code, wow, what happened to July? We're going to see a number of carriers available. That gives us the opportunity to have different programs in our pocket in order to be competitive price-wise or by stability, because it'll give us an idea as to how those programs' premiums changed. Are they age-banded on a 1-year, 3-year, 5-year basis? How is that plan designed to change the premium as a person ages? What's the history of those programs on regular rate changes based on experience across class? Do they have a strong portfolio that enables them to absorb major claims in a particular area? It gives us then also the opportunity not only to make certain that we have the appropriate carriers in our portfolio to market with, it also gives us a tool with which to market by offering complimentary Medicare supplement reviews. And as I mentioned before, a way of looking at Medicare Advantage programs as well. So as we look at the multitude of carriers that are out there looking for you and your support of their programs moving forward, how does that come into play with the different eligibility in that particular area? It's also a way that in certain markets, there may be one carrier that is a predominant carrier, strong year over year. You're not going to change that base coverage. Medicare Advantage programs, as we mentioned before, as to why an MA versus a Med Sup, those hospital deductibles or the co-insurance on chemotherapy or other radiation treatment may be a way for us to plug a hole, and there's a program within this that will do that with a Medicare Advantage, a hospital indemnity program or a critical illness plan to take up that shortfall as well. So some different things that can come into play here with electronic access that can make it very simple for you to do. We also offer, of course, the programs that enable you to do some of this electronically remotely as well. Our Medicare Center program gives you the opportunity to collect that Medicare scope of appointment, hold it electronically within this program, use it as a CRM database for a year-over-year review, and send out links for the carriers we represent to do a remote application. So a great way to extend your working life, in a manner of speaking, day over day to do that. And that same sort of access is coming into play with the quote engine as well, with carriers coming on, offering that e-application through that program for Medicare supplement programs as well. We have additional trainings coming up for these programs, so watch for them, and we'll actually kick a link to a recent webinar we did on the e-app through the quote engine as part of today's follow-up as well. Some quick things in closing for why you want to do all this with us here at the the fine brokerage firm of Premier Marketing is the fact that you're able to do electronic contracting and create an agent profile and contract with multiple carriers electronically, and it'll autofill the contracts for you and make it simple for you to do. This gives you an opportunity to add on particularly additional ancillary carriers very simply and easily. We also give you the opportunity to protect yourself as an independent agent with discounted errors and admissions coverage. As an independent agent, you have opportunities to contract with a multitude of organizations through a multitude of hierarchies. This gives you coverage regardless of who your contract is based with. We also offer a means for you to keep your license in play with CE bundles containing education packages through our association with WebCE, and ways that if you are recruiting new people to the industry, a way of helping them get their licenses online effectively and efficiently as well. We also offer a means for you to add to your own benefit package with non-cancelable disability income coverage on a modified guarantee issue basis at a discount, where you share in the commission and add to your own benefit package. And much as today's presentation is being recorded, our past presentations are available to you 24/7, either through our website at premiersmi.com or through our YouTube site, a great way of accessing product-specific information or marketing strategies as well, and that it can be done anytime through the day. We have a program also that allows you to put your social media marketing on autopilot through Coverage Made Easy. And we want to make certain that all your marketing efforts are fully rewarded, so we help you track the different carrier trips and incentives, and we offer our own producers convention as well, where this coming April, it's a cruise from Miami to the Bahamas. So if you're one of the people that love the sun, this is really something to aspire to and to make part of your reality moving forward. This gives you, once again, that information about different lead programs available through our organization, where we can help you get in front of the population you look to serve through the call list, the different community-based programs, and the programs that are set up to help you with those different initiatives. A link to those presentations in the past are going to come to you as well, and share with you the different presentations that are available to you to those centers of influence in the community, be they a faith-based organization or a senior center or a number of other places in the community where seniors congregate, Medicare beneficiaries congregate, where you have the sales track set for you on a compliant basis. Working with providers, we've gone through that as well, and we want to make certain that you can do so effectively and garner all the carrier support that is available to you. We do help with direct mail support based on production. We deeply discount the costs of those mailings to make that a viable part of your overall marketing program. And we do so through preferred lead vendors because we vet the different letters that are available to make certain that we all stay in compliance as well. Those internet leads, we have some different Facebook programs going right now that are of great success. The final expense division has pioneered a lot of that with our organization, and they've seen some great results from these programs. All this said and done, regardless of how you work the Medicare community, be it on an overall basis and tailoring your approach to the population you serve, or if you're targeting a part of it, we want to be part of your overall back office to supply those products and make certain that we are your partner in your business pursuits. It's then a question of what all you want as part of that program and what material you'll need in order to be effective in whatever or all segments of the Medicare population that you look to serve. You can reach any of us at Premier through our toll-free number at 1-800-365-8208, or through our website at premiersmi.com. Let's check for some different questions. And one of the questions is it possible that a lot of the under 65 disabled population are veterans? That's a very strong possibility. Depends on what you call a lot. I think the vast majority of people that are under 65 are disabled without being a veteran, but a good portion of them could very well be veterans who have served our country. It's also important to note that targeting this population is a little bit more challenging than just the general overall Medicare approach, because there's not a list of people who are on Medicare that you can access. You look at different target demographics, and for folks under 65, that's awful hard to delineate as well. Another question, is it possible to send a quote from Premier? Absolutely. We help with the quotes on the Medicare Supplement engine and on the Medicare Advantage programs through the Medicare Center. You also have access to that without cost as a contracted agent with our organization as well. And let's see. I think that's what we've got for questions right now. Yep. So that said, we look forward to going through some of the possibilities you have in the Medicare market across the spectrum of prospects. We look forward to that discussion. We thank you for your investment of your time with us here today. And in the meantime, until we speak with you, we wish you good selling. Thanks so very much, and we'll talk with you very soon.